Welcome back once again. Last time we learned how to make Blue Wizard, kind of, and I realized that I didn't really go over what the basics of gearboxes are. I just kind of went into them and did a basic thing with them, so I hope you were able to follow along. We'll get a little more into how gearboxes work, just as an overview here today. But more importantly, I've got a list of mascots over to the side, and I've been going through them to see what I think that with everything I have taught you so far you can make and what you can't. There are 31 mascots that I believe you can make with just what you've seen so far, and the rest have one or two little things or a whole lot of things, mostly gearbox related, that you can't. But in this video, we're going to talk about probably 5 of them, some of which have nothing to do with gearboxes at all, and I just kind of didn't go into them on the interim video when I should have. So the first one I want to look at is the erotic air sofa for one. Obviously, you can make this already, it's just a still image and a song, except for the gradient. I didn't show you the gradient options. Those are hiding currently in Wheel in the General tab. Right here. These are the gradient options. They're kind of neat. They don't work the way they should, but I don't care, because they work good enough. So all you have to do to enable the gradient is just turn it on. And you can draw it in front, too. So if you want something to have kind of like a opaque gradient over it, you can change that around a little bit. I honestly don't know why it's a little bit opaque, even though it's at 255, but I'm not going to worry about it, because it's just the gradient. That might be broken. I might fix that later. Whatever. Anyway, these are where the gradient options are. You can change the colors. You can change where the crop happens on the top and bottom. It doesn't work in the direction you think it should. This is all the way to the bottom. But you can make the fade more intense by pushing those close to the edge. And that's happening because of where the edge is, the center width. So it's going to get all weird if it's close, but if they're further away, you can see the center width will, Come on, stop doing the thing. The center width will widen it. So if these are beyond where the center width is, it flips and gets weird. So that's why that's happening. And then there's the vertical shift up and down. That's all you can do with gradient, but it's there if you want a gradient. I honestly don't know why it's slightly opaque. That's a little concerning. Like, why are you being opaque? I might look into that later. That does look like it's darker than it really should be at... Oh, those are broken. I see. That's not updating at all. So I will look into that later. We found a glitch. Just gonna put a note over here. Hang on. Alright, I'll fix that later. It's mostly working. It's just something about the opacity is messed up. I'll have to look. I might have the wrong variable in there for it or something. So that's how you do erotic air sofa. Now you know how to do all of that, so I can move that up. We're at 32 you can do. The next thing is Psycho Pinball. You know how to make this now. Because of learning with Blue Wizard, we used gearboxes to do triggers for the audio beat map. And you'll notice there's a lot of stuff going on here. 1, 0, 1. Wow, I can't do that at the right speed. So it's just 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1 at the end. And that's what's making it do this. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. See how that works? That's all that is. You already learned how to do that with Blue Wizard last video. But what's making... I mean, it's the same thing, really. It's just a single gearbox. It's got an audio trigger for the 1. And the trigger effect changes the current animation. Don't ignore that, that's not supposed to be there. Changes the current animation by adding 1. That might be confusing to you. Why is it adding 1 instead of setting it to a specific animation? And that's because of the way it works. So each of these has 4 animations, rather. One where it's up, one where it's down, and the transitions between going up and down. So you'll see with the transition, it just goes to the next animation with a magic frame. So it goes up, and then stops, and then it goes down, and then it stops. So here's a little secret trick about animations. If you change the current animation video, or variable, by adding 1 or subtracting 1, and it goes out of this range, like if it's at 0 and you subtract 1, or if it's at 3 and you add 1, it will loop. So if it's at 3 and you add 1, it goes to 4, it sees that 4 is outside of the range, so it goes back to 0. If it's at 0 and you subtract 1, it goes to -1, which is outside of the range, so it goes to the highest number that exists, which in this case would be 3. So if you need to just cycle through animations forever somehow, you can do that by just adding instead of setting it to a specific number, or subtracting if you wanted to go backwards. So that's what's happening here. Every one... Wow, that's freaking out. Every single time the beat map hits 1, it adds 1 to this, so it's like stopped here, it'll add 1, it'll do this, and then go here on its own. It'll add 1, go back here, do this, and then stop here. And it's doing that for both of them. They're just on opposite paths. So you'll see that this one's first one goes up and then stops on up. This one's first one... Oh, wait, no, sorry. They're the same, but this one starts on index 2. And this one starts on index 0. There. Simple enough. They're just copies. I thought that I had these backwards, because you could have done it either way. But no, they just... This one's set to 2, so it starts here and goes down instead. Alright, so that's how that works. But then there's this, and you don't know how to do this yet. Well, it's nothing really that complex. It's just the center whole image. So in the image mode here of the wheel, you can upload a cover image. And that's what I did. I just dropped the awesome face on here. However, it's freaking huge, so you'll notice that the radius adjust is way down. So I think this starts at 0. So, like, it was the size of the wheel when I uploaded it, and it just popped in like this. That's what the cover image radius adjust is for. You can kind of move it down. And it's just covering the Wheeler Craft logo. That's all it's doing. It's just a picture. So you just put it where you want it, and then I have rotate cover image turned on so that it rotates with the wheel. Otherwise, it just kind of sits there. And that's it. That's it for that one. Those are the two things that you didn't know about Psycho Pinball. You already knew how to do one of them from learning how Wizard works, because it's doing the same thing. But you didn't know that you could add to the current animation and have it just keep looping, and you didn't know about the cover image, but now you do. But anyway, for Pinball, all you needed to know was that you could upload a cover image and adjust it, and like move it around and stuff. Not that one. But you can also change the adjustment for the rotation start. Because, well, even if it's not rotating, you can, like, choose where you want it to be, if it's just sitting there. So, there's that. We now know how to do Psycho Pinball. The next 3 will be using gearboxes, but they're very simple things. I'm just going to turn them off and show you how they work by making them again. Give me a second here. And here we are at Mascot 3 of this video. Which one is it? It's the Mystery Box! This is another good example of one of the simplest ways to use gearboxes that make one specific thing way easier than it used to be. How does it do the free pick and request thing? As you see, it didn't this time, because I've already removed it so that I can show you. It's a very, very, very simple way to use a gearbox. Go into your sprite, we only have the one. We're going to go into the gearbox. We're going to add a gearbox. It needs a trigger and a trigger effect. As I said earlier, I was going to talk about how gearboxes work as just a basic principle. That's pretty much it. You've got some general stuff here, like the name and the sequence that it's actually on, and the delays. But generally speaking, every gearbox has a trigger and a trigger effect. Some things can trigger them externally, like these gearboxes can trigger other gearboxes and other sprites and stuff by basically activating a certain sequence that they might be on. But generally speaking, every gearbox needs to be triggered by something, and then that trigger makes it do something. So there's a whole bunch of triggers, and then there's a whole bunch of effects those triggers can do. Or you can turn off triggers only mode and just have it activating regardless with no trigger except maybe a delay. But that's really the basic idea of it. And through chaining these things together, you can make really complicated things happen. And we'll get more into how to chain them together to do more complex tasks soon, but right now we're just focusing on the ones that can be done with one single thing. So for this particular thing to happen, it needs a trigger effect related to the spin. So spin start trigger is the one we want in this case. What that means is that when the wheel starts spinning, it will do a thing. And finally, we need an effect, and we have more wheel stuff here. And one of the options that I put in was the free pick and request mode during spin. And that's it. That's all we had to do. So by having it trigger on the spin start, and then trigger free pick and request mode, there it is. And with those two single checkboxes, we now have a working mystery box. That was it. So there's a lot of other options in here, like wild mode, for example. That's the one that works like Uno does, where it just continuously changes. However, if you have it just set to this, it's not going to do it. You have to have it activated constantly. Anyway, this one just needed this. So, bam, done. So now you know how the mystery box works. Let's move on. Welcome to Mascot 4 of this video. Today's mascot is DJ Indy, but nothing's happening. Once again, I have already disabled what makes it do the DJ Indy thing. So, we're going to learn about recolorizing the wheel on this one. And this particular one is also using the beat map. So if we look at the beat map here, we can see that it's just 1 and 1. So every single beat, something is happening. So we're going to use that, much like Wizard and Psycho Pinball did. And we just needed to do one thing again, because we're looking at all these simple examples of using a gearbox. So we're going into our one sprite of DJ Indy, into the gearbox, adding a gearbox once again. We're going to have a trigger of audio, and the beat trigger is 1. And then the trigger effect in the wheel stuff once more, you might have seen it, recolorize the wheel. What that does is it resets all of the colors randomly. There it is. We're already done. So, the reason I have these both set to 1, and it could have just been this. Never mind, it doesn't change if there's only one of them. I thought it did. So it does need to at least have 2 of them. But the reason I did it with 1 and 1 is because if I had 1 and 0, it would take twice as long, and I wanted it to change every beat. You could technically have this twice as high and have this, and it would be the same speed. Like, what would that be, 144? So that's the same as it was before, it's just going twice as fast. And then if I did this, that would be twice as fast. So it doesn't really matter that much. If it works the way you want it to work, then that's great. So that is once again another great example of something the gearboxes can do with just one little set it and you're good. So all we did was just have a trigger effect for recolorizing the wheel when the audio beat trigger is 1. Bam, done. One more mascot to see, and this video is over. Here we are, final mascot of the video. Are you ready? It's our good old friend, Robot Unicorn again! We saw this guy the very first time we made a mascot, and we made it just like this, where it had all of the colors of the rainbow, but they were just kind of existing, and not doing the thing that they're known to do. So let's finish him off, because we can do that now. The first thing we're going to do is go into sprites, and we're going to go into the gearbox. We're going to add a gearbox. Once again, we're going to have a trigger effect of colorize the wheel. You might have guessed that, you were right. But we're going to turn off activate on triggers only. Not yet though, because we haven't actually added the delay, and that would be very terrible to look at. So let's go into general and have a delay of 6. Just six little frames, and then we can turn off activate on triggers only. There we go! That's not quite what we wanted to do, but it is recoloring the wheel. So every 6 frames it will recolor the wheel entirely. If we had it at 0, it would look real bad. Don't look at that. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was actually, but still. So we have a gearbox, activation delay 6. Activate on triggers only is turned off, so it's constantly activating. Otherwise it would do nothing until one of the triggers that we don't have set happens, so turn that off. And then wheel, recolorize the wheel. How do we finish this? Well, we go back to the segments. There are some settings here that you may have seen if you were looking around that will do the very thing we need to do. I would like to just talk about recolor speed real quick. This is very useful for having a very smooth transition. If this is set to nothing, it's too slow and you can't really see anything happening. If it's set really fast, it's an instant transition to a next color. Somewhere in the middle, you get like those really slow transitions, and it looks really nice. I put that in for the Sparkster Shimmer, but I had this at around 70 because I liked it to be just a little bit smooth, but not entirely smooth. But I just wanted to let you know that's what that was for. So you may have seen that I have these labeled rainbow, and that's exactly what they're for. So if we turn off the gearbox for a second, we will see that if we turn on Start Colors with Index, nothing happens because we have to reset the wheel. It hasn't recolored the wheel. It's one of those things that doesn't reset until you've done something. So resetting the wheel and having it recolorize itself, it will start with an index offset, and now they are in rainbow order. I want them to be in the other order though, so I'm going to reverse the cycle, and we will see that instead of going from red this way, it should go the other way now. Oh wait, no, that's not what that does. I was wrong, sorry. So they are... No, it is what it does. So they're going... No, it isn't. I confused myself. That's not what that's for at all. So this option will start them with this index, right? When it reset it, it went from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and then a pink. So the reds are hiding because there's exactly enough that they are all under these request and free picks. If I removed those, you would see the reds. Trust me though, the reds are there. If we look at the segment colors, there is a red. It's just hiding here underneath each of these. That just happens to be because there's exactly as many colors as there are spokes from here to here. The segment override spokes are completely ignored when you're doing this. So anyway, they're starting with the offset now, but if we turn the gearbacks back on, they're still doing crazy colors. That's what the other two settings are for. Cycle colors on recolor. Alright, well, it's not looking it's not looking crazy anymore, but all the colors are crazy. That's because we were cycling them before, or after, like, they were already crazy when I turned this on. And then reverse cycle just changes the order it's going in. I'll show what that does in a second. If we reset the wheel, though, it will start with the index, it won't be all crazy, and then it will cycle the colors from that index so that it looks right. Forgot to turn that on. Or I think I accidentally turned it off. So now, it's starting with the index, and it's cycling them. So as you can see, it's going in a circle with rainbow colors. What the index does is make it so that, like I said, this one starts red, green, or orange, yellow, green, and so forth. Cycle colors makes it so that whenever the sprite gearbox recolorizes it, it doesn't change to a random color, it changes to the next color in order, right here. So if it was red, it turns orange. If it was orange, it turns yellow. And then finally, reverse cycle reverses that, so if it was orange, it turns red. If it was yellow, it turns as orange. And that will make it go the other direction. So with all of this combined, if we started from scratch, we would turn on the index offset so that they're all in color order. We cycle colors on recolor so that it will go from red, orange, yellow. We reverse that so it actually goes from yellow, orange, red. And then finally, we have the gearbox activating every 6 frames without a trigger, recolorizing the wheel. Bam! Now you know how to do the rest of Robot Unicorn. And I know that was a little bit wacky. Just know that recolorizing the wheel is super simple. You just have that on. If you don't have this index offset on, or cycle colors rather, it goes crazy. And then if you do have them on, it will cycle through the colors from whatever color it's on. And then finally, if you want it to color cycle in like a strip of rainbow colors, you need to have this on and reset the wheel so that it starts in that index from red, orange, yellow, and so forth, rather than just starting from crazy colors. By the way, that also affects the intro colors you saw there. These also affect the intro colors. So you can't get away, if you use these, from colorizing both the intro and the wheel. Likewise with DJ Indie, if you're using the sprite section gearbox thing to recolorize the wheel, it is also recolorizing the intro. You can't not recolorize both of them. It doesn't usually matter. because if you're colorizing the wheel, you're probably wanting to show that on the intro anyway. But if you're not, too bad. There's no way around that. So that wraps up this video of a few super easy things we can do to catch you up. And now that I've shown you all of this, if it went through and you understand it, you can now make 36 mascots, no problem. In the next video, we're going to talk about sound. There are several mascots that use a sound trigger that are done through the gearboxes. And there are some that do a little bit more than that and also move, but the sound part is the next simplest thing. We may see 5 mascots in the next one too if I go fast enough, but maybe not. We'll see. But next time, we will look into how to make a sound happen.